confident practitioners and practitioner engagement with families. Really having parents, carers and children at the heart of what we do, parental engagement. Making sure that our help is actually non-judgmental and practical, and we know that it works. That we try as far as possible to have a stable relationship between service providers and service users, and that we minimise the changes to service personnel who are working directly with families experiencing stress. But above all else, there's an open and honest relationship between practitioners and families in receipt of care and support. That we do have professionals that are non-judgmental, well-trained, well-supported and empathetic. And that senior managers and leaders give those practitioners who are working with some of our most challenging families the level of support and management and encouragement that they need. And that, of course, that we do have the active engagement of young people in designing the services that are provided for them. So some key messages for senior managers and leaders. We have to know our communities. We have to collect the right data. We have to have that data coming from a variety of sources, and we have to be able to target our interventions on the basis of need. We have to commission the right interventions. We have to know what works. And then we have to evaluate the effectiveness of what we do. So we have to assess need, we have to target interventions, they have to be the right interventions, and then we need to monitor and evaluate the success of what we do. We have to know whether we are making the difference that we set out to achieve. And in the UK this has become particularly essential because many services believe they are doing good, but we now have to be much more rigorous and robust in assessing whether the way that we're working with families and what we are doing really is making the difference that we need with them to their lives and their outcomes. I've talked all the way through this about successful multidisciplinary working, and just very quickly, the key characteristics, you will know what they all are, but actually what we have found, and I can't stress enough the importance of multi-agency working with families with multiple needs. These are the characteristics which are essential. Investing time to build trust between agencies if we really want to ensure that we produce a successful coordinated approach. Co-locate agencies and services where possible. And again, I've talked about through children's centres, early year settings, through schools. Share information, share data. Produce coordinated packages of action with the child, young person, family at their centre. Have a key worker, trusted adult, lead professional holding the ring between all agencies and services, working with the family, so that families are not experiencing multiple assessments and multiple appointments, multiple courses of action. A coordinated approach, lead professional, key worker holding the ring. Have a team around the child or family approach. Jointly train agencies and services together in how best to work with families, children and young people, rather than training our teachers and our social workers and our health professionals separately. Train them jointly on those things that make the difference. And interestingly, working with families with multiple difficulties, the characteristic of successful practitioners seems to be having an assertive, empathetic, persistent style, whereby you don't give up as soon as you are rebuffed or held back at the door, but you persist in working and connecting with the family with whom you're working. The next two slides really just set out some examples of really effective local practice in England. There's a whole range of interventions here. from local authorities and the voluntary and community sector right the way across England. I'm not going to go through any of these, but what these examples of local practice do set out, they demonstrate many of the characteristics of successful work with families who need our support the most. And I hope very much if you can go on the C3O website and access some of these really good examples of effective local practice, there may be elements in there which may help you take some of your work forward. So thank you so much for listening to me today. I'm sorry if I've talked in headlines. I'm sure you're sitting there thinking, well, we knew all that, and I'm sure you did. But I think it's always worth reminding ourselves about those things which are important, where the evidence suggests they do work, because we need to do more of what works and less of really what doesn't. And I'm going to finish by showing another film clip, actually, of young people who are in the care system in Sunderland, which is one of our local authorities in the north of England, where they're in the home in which they are. They're working with young people who've been subject to sexual and emotional abuse, and the approach that this particular care home is taking is seen to have a dramatic effect on the outcomes of some of our most severely disadvantaged young people. And I'm going to finish on that because I think that is a real note of optimism for the future. So thank you very much for listening, and the very best of luck in all of your endeavours. Thank you.
The sandcastle represents Colombo Road. Then I did the sea, like we'll have some rough times and then we've got gentle times. And it moves on to like the sun rising, where it's calm and it's beautiful.
It feels like we've created something quite powerful actually, something that really holds young people who've never been held before.
Jamie, I'm just going to come in. Jamie, it's 20 past 8, sweetheart. Are you going to get up for breakfast?
Josh, your sandwich is on it to everybody, lad.
Oh, excellent.
Right.
Colombo Road is one of 6 children's homes in Sunderland, using a radical approach to working with looked after children.
I'm fine.
I've been in Colombo for nearly 2 years now. It's scary at first, not because like you didn't get any of the stuff on out. When I first moved into the home, I was getting into trouble and that. Doing things I shouldn't have been, getting locked up all the time, like smashing the house up. I've lived here 5 years. I've seen loads of people come and go. I've even seen my brother go. I was like very angry. My anger could snap quickly.
I wasn't a really nice person when I first come here. Bad-tempered, really hateful towards people. I was getting locked up.
All of the young people who are living here currently have come from foster placement breakdowns. They've all experienced significant trauma and significant levels of abuse. We've experienced physical aggression, damage to the property, self-harming behaviour, either through kind of drug and alcohol use or actually through self-mutilation. Often quite extreme sexualised behaviour. We always had the TCI, the Therapeutic Crisis Intervention, which is about non-physical interventions. But in having that, we were still doing a lot of restraints. Certainly in the early days of placements, I would go so far as to say maybe even weekly.
Can we just have hoopage these out of the cupboard yesterday?
But a recent pilot at Colombo Road has seen the development of Holding the Space, a 2-year training programme for residential staff.
That's okay if you walk then.
Right, have a good day, darling.
See you later.
Holding the Space began as a way of trying to get children in residential care into therapy. What we thought originally was, well, let's start and work with the residential workers. They are the adults who do have the relationships with the young people. It was a way of helping them work more therapeutically with the young people and in the process of that, giving the young people more access into therapy services.
I thought we'd start council today by kind of reminding myself of the 4 guidelines.
The method equips the residential staff with the skills to run therapeutic group work called council.
Council, which is the thing that underpins the whole training, the whole ethos, is a method of sitting together, usually in a circle, and it actually kind of stems from Native American tradition. It's a way of sitting equally where everybody can have a voice.
Anybody can chip in with what they mean for them.
Be spontaneous.
Listen to the heart. Means like listen to each other's point of views. Don't like think what you're going to say. Just listen.
Excellent, thank you. And the 2 containers.
So we sit with the belief that everybody is being the best that they can be. So even if you find yourself thinking, oh, they're not really listening, or they're not really behaving, you have to accept that everybody is doing the best that they can do right now.
Counsel is to talk about your feelings, understand other people's feelings, and to tell them where you're at with your feelings.
It helps you like with your emotions and things like that, and helps you get things off your chest.
It helps me get all my feelings and that out.
What I'd like you to do is I'd like you to think of Colombo Road. Think of this house where you are right now. Think of the good things about Colombo Road, the things that are not so good. Okay?
During their training, staff are encouraged to use creative arts as therapy, which they can incorporate in the council.
We've got some paper, pencils, colours, pastels, and just to put something down on paper, whether it be an image, some sort of drawing.
The creative art expresses me feelings and what I feel about the home and what used to happen and what now happens.
I just decided to draw a shell, and then I realised like Colombo is my shell in a way, because like now you get a snail and its shell's its home. It's a bit like me. Colombo's my shell.
We look after each other. In using the creative arts, it almost takes the pressure away from thinking about me or I, because they can do it through the artwork or through the words or through the poetry. I suppose it's like telling a story in the third person. It makes it a bit less raw.
Anybody can start, just say what, if they want to say something about their picture, and just kind of explain it. And if anything comes up for anybody, feels like they would like to respond, and they can do.
I was like, it didn't take me that long to think about mine. I just thought and just started doing like a beach, like all the sand. The sandcastles where Colombo is. The sandcastle represents Colombo Road. And I put like loads of people around it. Then I did the sea. Like we'll have some rough times and then we've got gentle times. Then it moves on to like the sun. And it looks like it's like at night or sun rising, where it's calm and it's beautiful. And it just represents Colombo Road a bit.
The young people have been incredible in terms of how they've responded to council. I think that they have really had a huge reaction to feeling deeply listened to, actually. I think it's made them feel safe. I think it's made them feel respected. I think it's made them feel that there's more of an equality and less of a kind of us and them scenario. I love the idea of Colombo Road as your shell. It makes me think that maybe you'll take bits of it with you when it's your turn to move on, and maybe you'll leave behind for other people bits of you that will be useful to them. I think that is just such a lovely idea. I've heard them use language like they feel loved, that they feel safe. I mean, these are big words, big feelings for kids who right up until this, late teenage years have never felt any of these things. What do you think about how council in the home has changed things?
It's made the house more safer.
So do you think that other kids living in children's homes should have the opportunity to do it?
Yeah.
Mm-hmm. And talk about things.
Okay.
And how they could change the house.
Yeah. How they can all make things better together.
Mm-hmm. and then the homes might make it more easier to live in.
It really is of benefit to ensure that those children who will be living in a home for 4, 5, perhaps 6 years